Good afternoon and welcome to our coffee break chat with Renaissance Learning. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Jonathan Coy, Chief Executive of Headteacher Chat and an experienced head teacher. Here at Headteacher Chat, we aim to keep you in the loop with the updates in the world of the education business. Coffee break chats are an informal opportunity for you to find out new ideas and ask questions. Don't forget to sign up to our other coffee break chat if you want to keep in the loop. We are recording this session. It's going to take about 25 minutes to half an hour for the session. And I'd like to introduce Chelsea and Margaret to our session today. Margaret is a curriculum and education specialist at Renaissance Learning, and Chelsea Sandbrook is an assistant head teacher at Manor Leas Primary School, who are both going to leave us excited about instilling the love of reading in our schools. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm sure you're not sitting around waiting for work in school at the moment, so thank you for your time. This is, as Jonathan said, being recorded. So I'm really pleased that Chelsea agreed to come and chat to me in this live environment. We've been working together for several years now. Chelsea's been involved in various products and she's been involved in various events on our behalf. And in fact, this event that we're doing today has been preempted by a blog that you wrote, Chelsea.
Yeah, so I wrote a blog about how we are using some different programs within our school to develop whole class reading, but also how it develops our wider school as well. So I'm looking forward to talking to you a bit more about that today.
Fantastic. So as Jonathan said, you're at Manor Leas Primary. Is it primary or junior? Is it both?
Yeah, we're junior school. So we're Manor Leas Junior Academy, and we are quite a large junior school just on the kind of outskirts of Lincoln. So we're 3-form entry, and we have a very mixed catchment as well. So definitely not just your kind of leafy village type school. We've got a very mixed catchment that we serve in our community. So we have to make sure that everything we do is serving all of our pupils, which can be a challenge at sometimes. Absolutely.
And as teachers, we know, don't we, that reading is core to everything. And it's important that they have that rich exposure from day one. Hopefully they've had some of that at home, but that doesn't always happen. So what does reading look like in your school?
Yeah, well, we've been on a real journey with reading over the past probably 5 or 6 years. I think that we recognized that that children were kind of reading as more of a tick the box kind of exercise. So there were reading journals and parents were signing these reading journals. But when we delved a little bit deeper, and this actually came with our Ofsted inspection in 2016, was that actually children weren't, first of all, enjoying their reading very much, and they felt like it was being done to them. And what we wanted to do was really change the attitudes to reading within our school. So we wanted to make sure our vision for reading is to make sure that reading is irresistible to all children. So that's what we started with. How are we going to make it so that children are desperate to read? And we knew that not all children are born loving books and loving reading, because that also has to do with what their home life is like.
Absolutely.
So to help them develop those habits. And that's really, really important. But we also wanted to make sure that there's not a workload implication for our teachers. It's a massive thing at the moment, making sure that workload is balanced with impact on what's going on across the school and in the classroom. So there were quite a few factors that we had to take into account when we were thinking about what we were going to do. And obviously, we made the choice to go reader, and that changed things dramatically for us. And we've been on a great trajectory with it. I won't bore you with kind of statistics about SATs results and things like that. Yes, they have improved, but obviously the thing that's even more exciting is that the culture is very visible within the school. Children walk into school with books in their hands in the morning and their noses in books. They're talking about books and authors and genres, and that's that's what's making the difference to children. They're developing their independence and taking the time to really think about their book choice. And that's incredibly important for their future development. Sorry, Margaret, I just keep.
No, it's great. I mean, it's lovely to hear that you've managed to turn that around, because as we know, maths and writing, you can see how children are getting on. You can see the evidence in front of you. You've obviously already seen some evidence of children's attitude and enjoyment. I mean, it's all very well us telling them they need to learn to read, but until they want to and feel invited in and enjoying it. How do you, I mean, obviously there are the visual signs that they're walking in with books and they're talking of, they're doing book talk. Yes. But how do you know that they're reading, and how do you know whether what they're reading is appropriate or relevant, and how they're doing really?
Well, this was another massive part of the decision-making process with how we were going to move forward, because as I mentioned at the beginning, we used reading journals previously, and actually, the time it took for teachers to monitor and check those things, the workload was really high. We wanted to ensure teachers had a system that was really quick for them to monitor and check how children were getting on with their reading, but also a really easy system that children can understand. And because of that means that, the children are developing their choice in what they're reading as well. So they're becoming more independent on going to the library. We trust all of our children to go down on their own. Obviously, we're a junior school, so that means that, the age range allows for that. But all children go down to the library independently during the day to select books. And we give them that trust, because they need to make mistakes as well. And so that, that's really, really important. But through using the reports, teachers can instantly see what it is the children are doing and how much they're reading. So we not only monitor things at a classroom level, so teachers are, but we also monitor things at a whole school level. So I was having a look at where we are at a school at a school at the moment, and we've been back for 7 weeks, and the children in our school have read over 30 million words already.
Wow.
And and the ability to track that is fantastic, not only for us as leaders, because then we have people that we report to and things like that, but also to celebrate with the children. They absolutely love statistics. I used to do some amazing assemblies pre-COVID with giant beach balls and all sorts, celebrating the statistics. So we're getting a bit of maths in there as well. But really,
nice.
It's not anything that costs a lot of money, just really celebrating what they've achieved. And that's incredibly important. Because we ask, at our school, we ask children to read 30 minutes every single night. That's the requirement. But currently our school has an average of 61 minutes every single night.
Wow.
They're reading over an hour every single night because they love it so much. And
that's amazing.
That's incredible stuff. And that's all we can ask for, is that we're developing these lifelong habits for them.
That's fantastic. And I know, obviously, with AI, you get a diagnostic report and it gives you all of that information about your individual children and so on. So in terms of the teaching of reading, because obviously children, unlike, I think, some people have this belief that it's like osmosis and they sort of sit in front of a book and they learn to read and that's all wonderful. And of course, it doesn't work like that. And an accelerated reader isn't there to teach children how to read. It's to enhance the teaching of reading, as is myON, of course. How does teaching of reading what does it look like in your school?
Well, we had to really make it explicit, not only to our staff, but also to parents as well, because I think that was something that we had to make really, really clear, that teachers are still teaching children how to read. That's really important. Accelerated readers for the children to do independently. So that's at their specific level. It's tailored to them. And what our teachers are doing within the lessons are really ambitious texts for English. that actually might need to be scaffolded for some pupils. But obviously they're still teaching children to read in the classroom. And we do whole class reading at Manor Leas, and all of the books, the core texts that we use have accelerated reader quizzes linked to them. And that's not the whole reason why we do those texts, but it's a happy coincidence. But it means as well that teachers can use that as a teaching tool to go through and dig deeper with different types of questions as they're going through a class, as a class and doing these quizzes. So they can put it up on the board and they can go through the quiz together. But then the teacher uses responsive teaching to delve a bit deeper into things like inference and deduction into the text. So the children are seeing that it's not just about remembering what happened in the story, it's also using more critical thinking to develop those higher order reading skills as well. So it's a great tool to use, not only just as something that children do on their own, but the teachers take that and they use it in their whole class as well.
And I think that modelling of reading and that scaffolding of some of the skills are best done, aren't they, in that environment with a teacher standing there with a book and talking about the book and the language and the difference between fiction and non-fiction and all of those elements that you can't assume they'll just pick up on.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned non-fiction, because that was another area that we really wanted to develop within our school. And I think school leaders will know that non-fiction books are much more expensive than fiction books to purchase for your library. So we were in a real dilemma because we wanted to ensure that children had a wealth of different types of text to read. And it just didn't seem possible to firstly find the variety out there and have enough for the children at different levels for them to read. So myON came in, and that was absolutely revolutionary for us as a school. So myON is kind of a sister product to Accelerated Reader and has the online library of books, the majority of which are actually nonfiction. Isn't that right, Margaret? And
yes, 70% is nonfiction. Yeah,
and that really solved a problem for us. Not only because getting books into the hands of children that they wouldn't necessarily normally have access to, but also because it's online. And so obviously we had this in place before lockdown, and it made it very, very easy for us and very seamless in order for the children to do a lot of reading whilst they weren't in school. So, I mean, our statistics I don't have them written down here, but our statistics were fantastic. We knew our children were reading all the time. And especially in that first lockdown, there wasn't much more that we really, could have asked from them. They did brilliantly. And, but what I was getting to was that through English teaching, so for example, our year fives have been studying the London Eye Mystery. I don't know if you know that text, Margaret, but they've been doing the London Eye Mystery, and a character in that book has autism. And so through myON, the teachers set different projects. So they assigned books to the children, and there were nonfiction texts explaining about autism and what it was, but also picture books. And so that the children could have that core knowledge developing whilst and giving them more information about what it was that they were accessing within their English lesson. So again, we're developing a culture of pre-learning, of really using paired text to make other texts more understandable and give them that meaning so that the teachers can go deeper. That's the whole point of it, because we know that children come from very different backgrounds. Some children will know a lot about a lot, and some children will know a little. And so it's really important that we give them those tools to set them up with as much core knowledge as possible. So that's been a really, really great success across the school.
And I think that literary capital or cultural capital, as it's sometimes known, children come with very different types backpacks, don't they? You know, if you've been to Africa and then you're studying Africa, you're going to bring so much more to the table, and obviously not everybody gets a chance, certainly not at the moment. And I'm really thrilled to hear you're talking about myON as more than a digital library. You know, I think during lockdown there were a lot of schools that were thrilled to have access to the thousands of books that myON offers. But now children are back in school, what we're also hearing is that people are now recognising exactly what you've just been saying, the sort of modelling and unpicking and unpacking of the text for the children, to invite them into that space, to expose them to the language and the development of vocabulary, which is just crucial.
Absolutely. And what's great about using the products in conjunction with each other, so through our STAR assessments, we recognized that one of the issues in year 6 was summarizing. And then we could use myON for the children to use the post-it feature where they were taking notes and summarizing pages, or the highlighting feature to highlight key text, and then the teacher could try to work with those pupils to help them summarize the main ideas from a page or a paragraph, and so that those things can work together in order to develop those skills. So it's not just simply reading and quizzing, and you know, that's why, you know, it's so ingrained in what we do as a school, because I think any system can be done badly and any system can be done pretty darn well. And what you want to do is take it and figure out how it works for your school. So for us, it works really, really well because our staff are on board and they're actually using it in their day-to-day running of a classroom, which is, you know, it is really phenomenal to see.
So somebody's just put a question in there about whole class reading, and whether each child, I think the question was, does each child have their own book during whole class reading? Obviously in myON that's not the case, but maybe if we just reflect back a moment, because I think she's probably talking about whole class reading.
Yeah, so we have books for every child in the class, and we've started this year also offering parents, if they want to purchase copies of the book, so their child can own that book and take it home and back and forth to school with them as well. So that's something we're trialing this year. But also we're lucky enough to have quite a bit of technology within school. So we have quite a few iPads and things that enables a year group to have, if we are using a common text within myON through a project, for them to all be accessing that same text. And that is really important, because then if you are monitoring individuals and they're logged into their account and they're asking questions to the teacher and things like that, that's great. But also, even if you don't, there's great opportunities to do things like group work and paired work as well with technology. But yeah, in whole class reading, we try to ensure that every single child and the teacher has a copy of the text, so that they have, I think sometimes there can be issues with pairs and sharing a book, things like that, you know. It's great to put the book in their hands as much as possible. So yes, we do try to do that. And
that's actually a great aspect of myON, isn't it? It's 24/7 access, with every child having a copy whenever they want at the same time, multiple you know, and that just makes it so much easier for you as well as a teacher, doesn't it, in terms of being able to ensure access is fair and equitable. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a look at some of our statistics before this chat, and you know, and so far this year there's been 30,500 minutes read just on myON, and wow. that's incredible. And yes, and obviously our children are reading paper books as well, so there's lots going on there to make sure that we wanted to ensure a variety for the children. So some will prefer reading online, some will prefer reading paper, and that's absolutely fine, but we want the exposure to a variety of different texts, and that was really important as well when developing our wider curriculum, so that we ensured that, you know, those projects through myON, teachers are giving the children pre-learning for their next topic. So for history at the beginning of the year, the teachers were assigning books for our year 3 children on ancient Egypt, and they were able to have a look prior to starting their
their unit of work in that in the ancient Egyptian. So they had a bit of that pre-learning, which has been fantastic as well.
And again, the whole class reading approach works really nicely from that point of view, because you're almost inviting children into that space, aren't you? You're exposing them perhaps to language and a book that they wouldn't normally choose. And for them to be able to then share that with a brother or a sister or a mum or a dad or whoever, I think that's such a magic wrapping it all up, really, and sort of fulfilling the circle.
Well, that's been some of the feedback we've had from parents. Is actually, it's been brilliant because they've been able to get a taste of what the children are going to be learning about through the children sharing these books with them over a half-term holiday. So they can look through and they can see, oh, you're going to be learning about ancient Egypt, even if it's just looking at the pictures and talking about what they think they could be.
Yes.
These are all skills that, you know, any little bit helps, doesn't it? So
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's better than nothing. So we see anything that we can do to encourage that relationship between home and school as well as a real positive thing.
I've also seen some fantastic, you're talking about projects. So just for those of you that don't know, people can set up a project. It's a bit like a scheme of work, really. You could have a book bundle and that's the project, you assign it to children. Or you can have activities like, you know, create a pamphlet or create a leaflet. And I saw a teacher recently creating notes, you know, showing children how to take notes using the writing journal and how those notes would form the basis of their own writing. And I think that's such a challenging thing to, you know, children just copy out of the book, don't they? I mean, that's what they believe taking notes is, and to be able to model that on a big board or on a screen, and the journal follows the children with every book they read. So if they're doing Egyptians and it's 5 different books, they've got all of that information captured.
Absolutely. And it's developing those different skills that we might not necessarily cover as easily within the classroom. So again, it's just giving us a whole new set of tools to access within the classroom. So so things from the journaling, the dictionaries as well. Of course. Really cool. Yes. So we even use it for spelling, so for a completely different session, but also vocabulary development. You know, the children are highlighting words and they're looking up what they mean, they're taking notes on them, you know, they're uncovering material and knowledge that we maybe wouldn't have given them in the first place. So, you know, it's just giving them the tools to be able to access this stuff independently as well, and develop them as inquisitive learners, because they need to be able to open a book and go, oh, actually, that's quite interesting. I might actually look that up and find out more about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the culture you want to develop.
Definitely.
Within the whole class reading session, you know, you can make sure that if the children have access to those tools, that you know, you can prompt them to go and find more, because we are developing habits. We're not, you know, expecting them to start that way. You know, we have to teach them how to be inquisitive and curious and interested in finding out more, rather than just that's okay. So that's what we're trying to develop.
So a couple of questions. Joy's question, I was cheekily going to say, is have you robbed a bank? But she doesn't say that. She says, sounds wonderful, wondering where the funding is coming from for both books and tech. So
yeah. Well, again, I think at the beginning I said, it has been a journey. So this hasn't been a kind of 1 year we've done it all. We've very much built on it over time. So, you know, with the technology, we made a decision as a school to do leasing. So again, we don't own the technology outright, but it does get replaced every couple of years. And obviously that, you know, there's lots of different things that I could say about that. But obviously, you know, we've invested in technology because we know how important it is for our children and what works at our school and how we want the school to run. So yeah, you know, that we've done the technology on a leasing system, which has been really great, and ensured that we can get as much as possible throughout the school. Books, we do lots of fundraising for books. So our parent teacher association, our Friends of School, that's one of the main things that they raise money for every single year, because in the initial year that we took on AR, obviously there was a big outlay in terms of books. But actually what you find is that many of the books that you would already have in your school library are on accelerated reader, which is great. So we actually, we could use a lot of what we already had. And we do book drives on World Book Day. So we ask parents and children to donate books to the school for World Book Day. It's just trying to be creative with it. Yes, I'm fully aware that, it is an investment, but it's made such a difference to us as a school that we would never get rid of it, because, and actually many of our teachers say they'd never work in a school without it, just because they see the value that it adds.
Brings to the table.
So yes, it is an investment, but in my opinion, it's well worth it.
So Kira's asked a couple of questions around the sort of logistics of whole class reading. So just very quickly, if you wouldn't mind, do you sort of focus on vocabulary one day, reading comprehension on another? Do you have one book that you follow throughout the term? How does it sort of work?
So we have a separate reading session. So we have 30 minutes a day that's dedicated to whole class reading. And for 4 days, that's on a core text. And then 1 day a week is either a piece of poetry or an extract from some nonfiction, which is relating to the core text. So again, that could be through myON, that could be a bit of poetry that's, that supports their understanding of what they're reading in their core text. So that's how we've planned to do it, which has been really effective, because then they're still getting that variety. And what we have ensured as well is that core texts only take 4 weeks. So again, we're giving teachers a limited amount of time, because we know that, and they read the book throughout the day at different times as well, to keep them moving through it, so that they can finish it. But yeah, that's how we've arranged it. We've tried lots of different things, and that's what's working really well for us at the minute.
Fantastic. So thank you so much. I mean, I want to come and visit. I want to come and see all this in action.
You've got to.
I will. I know that your blog, we will make the link available afterwards. People can read a little bit more about how you've put that in. Obviously, reading is weaving its way through your curriculum in spades. I noticed that Jonathan's taken his mic off, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to say what he'd like to say, actually.
Oh, thank you very much. That was really interesting to see how it is used in the school for the whole class reading, how the text can be used, and all the different types of text. That's been fantastic. I need to come and visit as well. It's not too far away from me.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
I have to venture over the fens to that way. Thank you very much, Margaret and Chelsea, for sharing all your information about whole class reading and how you can instill the love of reading. I think I would love to be a child in your school, Chelsea. I think it'd be great.
As Marianne Wolfe says, human beings were never born to read. It's an essential skill that must be learned. One of the biggest challenges is engaging and motivating struggling and reluctant readers. That's why over 6,000 schools across the UK and Ireland rely on Renaissance to help motivate, track, improve and measure the reading progress, attainment and achievement of almost 2 million children, with the complete literacy solution comprised of star reading, myON and accelerated reader.
Assessment of reading is fundamental to what we do as a school. It allows us to monitor, to report and really look at great detail in terms of pupil progression throughout the year. Star reading is probably the world's best kept assessment secret. It helps the students because they can get on with the business of learning rather than being continually tested. The accuracy of the reports allow teachers instantly to get the information. The whole thing is mapped to the national curriculum and it works.
We've really now established a reading culture through Accelerated Reader. The children come in from home in the morning and straight away their books are out, their notes are tucked inside the books, they sit down and read. And quite often actually when I do the register in the morning, some children won't hear me saying their name because they're so engrossed in their book. Seeing a student previously disengaged and not particularly enjoying reading, seeing them enjoying it, falling in love with it, has just been magical.
By empowering teachers and enhancing the learning experience, we believe that we're able to accelerate learning growth for all and make sure that nobody falls through the cracks or gets left behind. Our solutions helped over 1.6 million British and Irish students in the last academic year alone and are currently implemented in over 50,000 schools worldwide.
Thank you for everyone coming today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more information, just get in contact with us on Twitter or Facebook, and we share all the love of reading with everyone. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Chelsea.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Renaissance Space podcast, please check out the Education Joining the Dots podcast from our colleagues at GL Assessment. Thank you.